Each season, Guys Telling Stories seeks out fascinating people with a good story to tell. I'm Rich Douglas, and this man beside me is my co-host, Bill Easton. We're a couple of guys who love a good story. So join us on our quest to find fascinating people with a good story to tell. This is Guys Telling Stories. All right, Bill, welcome.
How are we doing, Rich?
We're doing really, really well. This season 3, we're loving it.
Yep, it's going great.
Yeah, we were getting a lot of good feedback, some fan interaction too on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Facebook.
Yeah,
and even some Instagram love. Well, we're really excited today about our guest, Andrew Hallam. And before we get to him, let's do Try at Home.
For years here at Guys Telling Stories, we've been talking about our ride-sharing experiences in other areas. We talked about how Vegas, and then we get to where you need to go, and we
DC, Florida, we love ride-sharing, yep.
And Lyft has been taking things to a whole new level. Lyft, L-Y-F-T, is the ride-share app that basically your friend with a car. Yeah, it lets you request a ride in minutes, and you are on your way to a safe, comfortable car, sometimes with a bottle of water, sometimes with some snacks, and usually a much happier driver than
some of these other... Now, I know ride-sharing has been around for years, Bill. We talk about it all the time, but in places like here in Buffalo, New York, it's brand new.
It is brand new. So if you are new to Lyft, our listeners get a ride credit towards your first ride simply by using the promo code GTS. So download Lyft, insert the promo code GTS, and you get a ride credit for your first ride.
Speaking of listeners, you guys, Bill and I, we're all always shopping on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm doing it right now.
Did you know there's a free way for you to help support this show? We don't always ask for help and support, but a lot of people are like, we're loving this season. We're loving the new format. Well, an easy and free way for you to help us out is just head to our website and click on our Amazon link whenever you're online shopping. Maybe you're buying baby formula. Maybe it's gifts around the holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day. Maybe a basket for your bike. I just got it. Well, whatever it is, you can help us and support the show for free simply by going to guystellingstories.com and clicking on our Amazon link before you shop. It's free to you, and it really helps us out. So if you're online shopping, head to our website first. Click the Amazon link. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's get to our guest, Andrew Hallam. Bill, this guy is incredible. I am familiar with his stories. He wrote a book that I read years ago called Millionaire Teacher, and it basically changed the way I look at saving for retirement and investing money. He is someone who is overseas now, and he and his wife, I think they just travel around the world, and they retired super early. So I'm curious. I want to know, what is life like for a early retirement couple who is, in the Middle East?
They're far away.
Yeah.
They are not close.
And, how did he do it? What was life like for him when he was teaching and saving money so that in his mid-30s he could just kind of walk away? I know.
He retired in his 30s?
Yeah. And he's also an awesome guy. He's into health and fitness. And I know he just has some amazing stories. So kind of fun for us that he is in Dubai right now.
Dubai.
I think he's something like 7-8 hours ahead.
Where is Dubai?
It's in the Middle East. We're not good with geography.
No.
All right.
I know where Dubai is.
Well, we can't wait to hear Andrew's story, so let's give him a call. Andrew, welcome to Guys Telling Stories. How you doing?
I'm really well, thanks. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks so much for doing the show.
My pleasure.
Right, Andrew, we always like to send people to your social media or your website. I know you have a few books. Where can people find you online and read about you?
Well, andrewhallam.com is a blog site that I end up linking a lot of the articles that I write into. On Facebook, the Millionaire Teacher on Facebook, so you can access me on that as well. And of course, my book, Millionaire Teacher, there's a second edition that was published about 3 months ago. It was published by John Wiley & Sons, and of course, it's available in all better bookstores and then on Amazon.
You are definitely the furthest guest we've ever talked to. Where are you right now?
I'm in Dubai. Where are you?
Ooh, we're in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, so we are East Coast time, and I think that would be about 8 hours ahead right now.
I guess so. I guess right now, for me, it's 7:23 p.m.
Yeah, and we're talking to you. It's 11:23 a.m.
The delay makes it sound like it's only 6 hours.
So, one of the first questions, my wife was helping me do a little bit of the research, and she was just curious, hey, what's it like to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Be living in Dubai, traveling across the world with your wife. And so what's going on in your world recently?
Oh man, it's so dependent. It's so different. So I do some writing for Canada's national newspaper. I have a column for the Globe and Mail, a personal finance column. And so sometimes I tinker on a story there and I write for them. I publish once every couple of weeks with them. And then I write a weekly column for a US-based financial service company called Asset Builder. And so that's a weekly that I do. So I'm always doing a little bit. So, at least an hour or two every day, I like to get some ideas going and sort of start putting together my regular stories, which keeps my head going. But last night, just to give you an example, we were in another emirate called Abu Dhabi. And I was speaking to some British international school teachers last night, and then ended up sort of spending the head of the school. We stayed at his place for the night, got to know him and his lovely Russian wife, and then came back to Dubai, and we watched some polo just down the way from where I'm staying. It's really interesting. You have these levels of wealth, right? So we're staying in this place called Desert Palm, and it's kind of owned by this guy who's kind of a friend of one of the sheikhs, and he's a multi-billionaire. Many times wealthier than Donald Trump, but he keeps pretty quiet about it. And he's got a group of people that play polo just about every day here. And so we just came back from, just so we wandered over, it's about a 10-minute walk, sitting around on the sidelines chatting with families of professional polo players and just talking to them about, like, what do you guys do? And how do you float around the world just playing polo? But and then, of course, the levels of wealth in terms of people that play polo is astronomical. So we're getting all variety of different things and experiences and learning about all kinds of different people. So it's kind of fun.
This is a little crazy. It sounds made up. I feel like you guys are pranking me today.
I know. It's like Andrew and I are playing a little trick on Bill because, he's shaking his head and I'm looking at him over across the table here. He's like, polo, like water polo? And it's like, no.
I know what polo is. I watch movies.
No, and I got to be honest with you guys. I am the pauper among the polo people. Like, I'm standing around, and I'm literally, my net worth is nothing compared to what I'm seeing around me here. So there are Saudi Arabian princesses playing and or Kuwaiti princesses, and it's just like, how about that? That guy there, that guy's a multi-billionaire. He flies in from the UK once a week to play polo. Really?
It is one of my goals. I'm shooting for the stars. I'd like to talk to a billionaire on the show at some point, and an astronaut. So,
and play polo.
And now I got to talk to a polo guy, or maybe play polo. I've never even ridden a horse, I don't think.
Well, you have a dog.
He's not that big.
Man.
I can't write. Yeah. Well, Andrew, I think hearing about that, your lifestyle right now is going to perfectly balance out maybe some of the stories from your earlier years a little bit. So this is perfect. That lifestyle right now seems awesome. Traveling around the world, meeting new people, and just having that perspective where you're. I can't believe I'm here talking to these princesses, about polo and these parts of the country parts of the world that some people don't even know about. You probably can't even point to some of these on a map.
I think it's where Aladdin was filmed.
Aladdin's a cartoon.
Oh.
Well, let's move people forward a little bit. Life growing up for you. Where are you originally from? Can we get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I was born in England, and my family moved to Canada when I was 3, and I grew up in an small interior city called Kamloops, and I was one of 4 kids. So I've got 3 sort of twin sisters and a brother. And my father was a mechanic and not a lot of money. So obviously I had to, if I wanted something, I had to pay for it on my own, which I think when I look back at it now was a really good thing because like a lot of kids, I got my own paper route and such, but unlike a lot of other kids that might get a new bicycle at Christmas or for their birthday, or the parents might just bring one home just randomly. I'd pay for my own stuff from bikes and onward from about the age of 12. So it did teach me that if I wanted something, I had to work for it. Money didn't exactly grow on trees, which I think ultimately lays some really good foundations for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Did finance run in the family at all?
Well, I think like most kids, I had a tendency to be a brat at times and wonder like, hey, why can't we take a trip to Disneyland like some of these my friends have done, or why can't I have a new bike? And my mom sat me down one day, and I was probably about 14 or 15. And it was one of the best things she ever did. She said, let me show you. She was really honest. She goes, let me show you what your dad gets paid. And she showed me like pay stubs, and my mind was blown. I was like, oh my God, Dad makes $30,000 a year. And my mom said, yeah, now so let's have a look at what comes out of that. And she taught me about income tax.
Right.
And then she showed me the mortgage payment. And then she showed me the grocery bills, the weekly, monthly grocery bills. And then she showed me how much my brother's ice hockey cost. And I was in the soccer league and what that cost. And afterwards, so I started this whole thing by saying, well, Mom, why can't I have all these things? And at the end of this sort of sitting with my mom for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes as she was going through the realities, the expenses of life, I looked at my mom and said, Mom, how do you do it?
Yeah, what'd she say?
Well, you're not playing hockey, you're playing soccer, so that saves.
Yeah, that saves some.
That's right. That's right.
Oh. It sounds to me like they were superheroes, like somehow making this all work. But did she have a realistic answer? That one for you, like this is how we do it.
Yeah, she just talked about how we really budget it. We have to be careful, and so obviously I can't get all of these things that I may want to have, or some of the things that some of my friends would end up having because their parents have earned more money than our family, and they may have had only 2 kids instead of 4 kids, and so. I got it. Like when she was talking to me about, I really got it. So I recognized, you know what, we're from, fairly modest means, and we have to be careful with our money.
What about later on when you got a little older in college? Tell us a little bit about Russ, the mechanic.
Yeah, it was one of those moments like, I don't know if you guys have read like much of Malcolm Gladwell's stuff, but of course the book Outliers is a fabulous book. And I really identified with this part in Outliers where he says, they're self-made people, and then there are always these moments where sort of fortune smiles on them, where they may meet somebody that ends up being really influential. And for me, that was kind of my outlier moment where I met a mechanic while I was working at a garage to pay for my college expenses during the summer. And this mechanic, rumor had it, this guy was a millionaire. And people had said to me, hey, if Russ ever wants to talk to you about money, make sure you listen to him. And I thought, well, why would this guy, I didn't even believe this guy was a millionaire. Like if he was really a millionaire, why would he be a mechanic? And it turns out one day, he sat me down, took me into his office. We worked the night shift. And he said to me, what would you do if I gave you $10,000? And I thought, oh my God, it's true. He's going to give me 10 grand.
He's like, I'd be afraid for a second. I'd be like, Russ, what do you want me to do? This is crazy. Oh.
It was funny because it was kind of Godfather-like, right? I think this guy liked to play that role a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, well, I guess I'd put it towards my schooling. And he paused for a moment, he looked at me, and he nodded his head slowly, and he said, that's an acceptable answer. And years later, he said to me, remember that first conversation we had? If you told me that you were going to buy like a new stereo or you're going to take some trip, he said, I probably wouldn't have talked to you again unless I had to.
He would have cut you off completely.
He would have cut me off.
This Russ character seems like you're Mr. Miyagi. Like he's about to teach you to wax the car and paint the fence. So, after your acceptable answer of what you do with $10,000, what happened next?
I think he wanted, I think he wanted to teach people. Like, I think he found something, I guess, much like I'm wanting to do now. He wanted to show people that there's a way to make your life a lot easier. And so he talked to me about compound interest, and he showed me how if I invested small sums from a young age, I wouldn't have to save as much money as the regular Joe if I started early enough. And I would end up both wealthier, and I would end up, saving less of my income, which which totally appealed to my lazy nature. I was like, yeah, I'm game for this. First, to be honest, what he said to me was like, you got to do $100 a month at minimum. You got to start doing that. And I was 19, and I said, there's no way. Like, how can I do 100 a month? I'm paying for my college and the whole bit. And he said, look, I've been watching you kind of go over to that vending machine, and you go down there pretty frequently, and you pick up like a can of Coke, and sometimes I see you buy like a bag of chips or a chocolate bar. And so he said, if you had to, could you buy like 2 cans of Coke and a muffin out of that vending machine every day if you had to? And I looked at him and I said, well, I guess I could. And he said, well, knucklehead, do the math. That's like $3 a day times 31 days, where you're looking at $100 a month right there.
And I know other people have used things like the latte factor and these ideas of, putting away, like you said, $3-5 a day. So to me, being a college student, be like, I just don't have any money, though. I would make an excuse to not do it. Being a little older now, I would slap myself upside the head and say, you should do it. You could be a millionaire watching polo players in Dubai if you would have started at 19. So did you do it? Did you start right away, putting that money away?
I did. I started right away. And again, like, he really emphasized, look, it's $3 a day. And he said, if you start at 19 and that's all you do, $3 a day, and you earn a 9% return on the money, which is less than the historical average, by the way. So if you look at the U.S. stock market over the last 25 years, it's averaged about 9.4%, despite the dot-com, the tech crash 2001, 2003, where it sort of bottomed out in March of 2003 when the U.S. went to war in Iraq. Despite the 2008-2009 financial crisis, the average for the market was over 9%. So, he showed me that if you sort of put away this $3 a day, it's $100 a month, and you did it from age 19 to age 65, it would end up being worth, at the end of it all, quite a bit of money, getting on towards $1 million. And so I was pretty inspired by that. And then as I started to earn more money, I started putting more and more money away. And then by the time I was in my late 30s, my investment portfolio had exceeded $1 million.
Congratulations to that. I know that was years ago, but still, what an accomplishment.
I got to start.
It wasn't that long ago. How old do I look? Jeez.
Nice going, Rich. He hung up.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. It's awesome to hear that this stuff is happening for people in their 30s when they start young. Because I think most people who are thinking of retiring early go maybe 55. If I'm lucky, a friend of mine wants 50. And then you meet this extraordinary person who maybe is 45. But to hear about somebody in their 30s, it's just unbelievably incredible. So I know you've got some awesome anecdotal stories about those years while you were saving, while you were, a young man. Which ones do you think you might want to share with our listeners? Something about, living while saving half your money.
Yeah, it was kind of fun because, I was a single guy. And in a way, it was a bit of a game. In terms of the investing, no. I wanted to be really pragmatic, use peer-reviewed evidence in terms of how I invested to give myself the best statistical chances of success as an investor. So I didn't mess around with money. But what I did do, the gamesmanship for me was, how frugally can I live? And especially as a young professional, as a young teacher, I took that to some really major extremes, but in a sense, that's sort of part of my personality too. I've done a lot of kind of extreme things physically with sports and the whole idea of, hey, for a few years, how cheaply can I live? And it's not for everybody, but it was kind of fun. It was kind of challenging. So when I first started teaching, I wanted to figure out how to end up not paying rent, if at all possible. So I did a lot of house sitting. And so people were going away, I would look after their house. And so, there were months at a stretch where I'm going from one place to the next and I'm not paying any rent at all, which of course frees up a lot of money if you're paying, you're saving $500 a month on rent. And of course, that's the money that you can either put towards debt reduction or you can put towards investments. And then later I found a place that I thought, you know what, it's about time I found my own place. And I did get a place that was cheap. It was $350 a month. I still remember that. It included cable. This would have been, just at the beginning of the internet. So it would have been early 90s. And the only problem with that is that it was about 32 miles from where I worked.
That's a healthy commute, even by car. In some states, New York City, Los Angeles, a 30 mile commute could take you hours. So how'd you get from point A to point B every day?
Well, I recognize that, all right, I can drive my car. And obviously then I'm going to be wear and tear on the car. That's going to cost me some money. There's going to be fuel costs. And because I was really active anyway, I did a lot of bike riding, a lot of running. I thought, why don't I just couple the two things together? My active lifestyle with this frugal goal. And so I rode my bike to work. So that was like a, 65 mile, actually, I think it was about a 70 mile round trip. It was about 35 miles each way. So I would ride to work in the morning, and I had a mountain bike, and I towed a trailer which had all of my English papers, stuff that I would be grading. And then the crazy thing is, as you probably know as an English teacher yourself, is that I would sometimes take the same papers up and down the highway 3 or 4 times and not grade them when I got home.
I know exactly what you pack that bag and you with all the best intentions, but they just never see the light of day. So you bring them there and back. But here in that distance, Bill is shaking his head right now.
I'm just wondering if anybody pulled you aside to talk to and be like, "Are you okay?"
And there was one woman, and I did mention this in my book. I was coming home one day, and I was kind of tired because sometimes there are days when you're feeling great and days when you're dragging your butt a little bit. And I pulled into a gas station, and I decided I'm going to buy like a power bar because I'm really running out of energy. So I grabbed this power bar, and there's a woman that she worked at my school, and she happened to live not too far from there, and she was picking up fuel for her. She had a cool green little Mazda Miata, little MX-5. And she looks at me, and she just has this look of pity on her face. And she says, "Andrew, we got to start like a collection for you or something at the school so you can get a car." And of course, what she didn't realize is that I probably could have bought 4 or 5 of her cars with cash. I was embarrassed for sure, but at the same time, this does sound like it's really extreme, but at the same time, one, it was a game and it was kind of fun, and then 2, I would have been doing much of that bike riding anyway. So, really cool thing was, of course, that I was able to enter some bike races, and I grew up bike racing. So the great thing is I'm just commuting, and I was able to win a couple of bike races that season too, based on just towing this trailer up and down the highway.
That's cool. So besides the commuting and the bike rides and stuff, were there other struggles in your career path?
Yeah, life's just darn unpredictable, and every single one of us is terminal. And when I say that, and I've always said that, in my 20s, I remember saying that to people, and I'm pretty upbeat generally, and they'd say, "Why are you so upbeat?" And I'd say, "Well, because every day is one step closer to my ultimate demise, so I might as well enjoy it. I'm going to be dead a long time." But it was 2009, so I was 39 years old, and everything was just going really well in life. Married to a wonderful woman. It was before I ended up writing Millionaire Teacher, but financially I'm in really great shape. I'm enjoying where things are financially, and I was doing a lot of running, a lot of competitive running races. And there's a really big race that's held in Singapore. Actually, they're held throughout the world. It's called the JP Morgan Corporate Challenge, and it started in New York, and it was a race around sort of Central Park, which explains the odd distance. It's a 5.6 kilometer race, and they started holding this race in a variety of different business districts around the world. And in Frankfurt, and they've got it in Johannesburg, and they've got them in Melbourne, Australia, and of course in Singapore. And there are about 10,000 people that enter this thing, and I ended up being the oldest winner of in the race's history. I believe I was 39 years old and crossed the tape first. And I'm thinking, wow, here I am. I'm 39, just turned 39. Life doesn't get any better than this. It's amazing. Feeling fantastic. And then shortly after that, I went for a routine medical screen, and I found out that I had bone cancer.
Oof. Oh, wow. Wow. I mean, you're on top of the world. You just won this amazing race. And it's not because everybody else thought it was a 5K. You're in great shape.
That's my excuse.
Life was good.
Yeah.
And what do you do to move forward just a little bit, those first few steps when you get a diagnosis like that?
Oh, it's obviously it's brutal. Because you don't know anything in terms of what's going to happen. There's surviving. There's your survivorship. So, for my cancer happened to be in my ribs, and it spread into 3 different ribs, and then it was spreading in towards my spinal, in towards my vertebrae. And so, once the cancer works its way into that spinal canal, you're pretty much done. It's really game over. And so I went in, and it was really, really close. When they went and had a look to see what was going on, it was really, really close to my spine. And so during the surgery, of course, they try and get a decent margin. And so the idea is you cut around the cancer, and you try to hopefully take some healthy bones on the outside of it, such that you have decent margins. You're not going to get cancerous bits and pieces that are going to continue to grow elsewhere and spread. So the spine was the challenging part, because they needed to get some degree of margin, but it was really close to the spine. And so then you're not really sure of whether you're going to get it or not in time. And when they did the surgery for me, they nicked the dura, so I'm leaking cerebral fluid during the surgery, and they have to sort of glue you up, and that's a bit of an exciting time.
Oh boy.
Probably an exciting time for the surgeons.
Absolutely, yeah.
To try and patch that up, and then the idea, of course, is beyond that. It's all right. So after the surgery, can you walk, and can you move your toes, and did we paralyze you? And they don't really know until they ask you.
You have such a good take on such a life-threatening experience. Moving forward a little bit. Did it give you a new perspective on life, or did you still have that same kind of cheerful, active, optimistic nature?
Yeah, it was pretty upbeat, and I guess just sort of born glass half full kind of guy. Nobody gets out of this alive, so I get a kick out of the idea. And my oncologist said it. He said it's kind of funny when people look him in the eye and say, "Well, am I going to die?" And he says, "Well, if you were creeping around 200 years from now, you'd be freaking people out. We're all going to die, and I think it's just getting or making the best of what you actually what you have in terms of the time that you have here." So I think it wasn't a lesson I needed, because I was always pretty happy with my lot and where things were at. Even when I ended up going through struggles, I would tend to see the silver lining there. But it does perhaps reinforce that a little bit. It does perhaps reinforce that, every day is a gift for all of us.
Did you change anything from this experience moving forward? How did it help you if you did?
I got a bit. You guys can probably get the idea that I'm pretty extreme with certain things, mm-hmm. in terms of the physical aspect and then the financial aspect. And I do a lot of reading. So much as I did for training as a bike racer, training as a running racer, and training to be financially independent, I did a lot of reading on nutrition. And I did eat well. It was a bit of my oncologist said, for you, it's a bit of a lightning strike. That happens to a lot of healthy people. And so what I did do, though, is I looked, all right, what is cancer like, and what is cancer not like? And cancer loves sugar. it just gobbles it up and it loves to grow. So every single one of us has cancer cells in our body, but not every one of us is going to get cancer. But if you end up getting a sort of a cluster of cancer cells, and it just can happen very randomly, and then you end up being the type of person who drinks a lot of Coca-Cola, a lot of sugary stuff, you're actually inviting the cluster of cells to form a tumor. And that's pretty much bad news all around. So it's one of those things where I looked at, all right, not that I had a lot of sugar, but I'm completely cutting it out. So since 2009, since my surgery, I haven't had a single Coca-Cola, a single soda of any kind. I haven't had cake.
Wow.
I haven't had a normal chocolate bar. I'll have like 85%, 90% cacao.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of spirulina. I put a lot of spirulina in a smoothie every morning, and just try to ensure that I drink a lot of green tea, taking a lot of green leafy vegetables because cancer hates that. And just you know what, guys, I just don't want to be like laying on a deathbed one day and saying to myself, what could I have done differently?
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah, the cake would be tough for me. I literally hold an annual cake contest every year around my birthday. Coincidentally, of course, but you know, after cake contests, it happens once a year. I don't eat the cake for months because I'm so done with it after that.
Well, it's all frozen and still in your freezer.
Guys, you know what? I don't actually have discipline in this respect. I'm just a coward. You know, I'm a coward. I look at that ice cream and I think, no way. You know, it does kind of, that part of it does kind of scare me a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason why it doesn't take discipline for me to walk away from ice cream.
I hear that. Well, you know, we're so happy that you overcame such a struggle like that and you have such a great outlook now on life. So, you know, if we kind of move forward a little bit, what's currently exciting you, or even in the near future, what's on the horizon?
Well, I'm loving meeting different people, going to different places, seeing different countries and cultures. And what I've been doing since January, I've visited 11 different countries and getting in and speaking to teachers at international schools and then people working at businesses and trying to help them with their financial lives. So trying to encourage them to be smart with the money that they're spending and then really smart with the money they're investing. And that's a pretty exciting thing. So I've been doing a lot of that. I was just mentioning that I was in Bahrain last night giving a talk, and that was the 39th school that I've spoken at since January. And so I speak to the teachers, but I also speak to the kids based on philosophy of money. So not just the investment aspect, but a little bit of how to think about money and how to live a really great life. And that when you do have some money, experiences trump material things. So purchasing things that allow you to, or at least spending money that allow you to do things, enjoy great experiences, time with people you love, time with your friends. Those things are far more valuable when we look at studies on happiness than material things like that latest iPhone. So it's kind of fun to show studies on this, to show the kids and to show the adults really what happiness studies suggest.
So further down the road, because you can't be traveling and doing this forever. What are your goals? What do you see yourself doing?
Well, long term, I think I'd like to spend sort of 4 months in different destinations. And so there are some really cool places that I'd like to just immerse myself in the culture. My wife and I love to just meet new people and learn about have new cultural experiences. So what we'd like to do is spend 4 months in one location, and 4 months then in another, and then 4 months in a third, and then basically rinse and repeat. So we can go back to a place, and we've already established connections to that place. We've already established friendships there. We're the types of people that really love alternative stimuli. So for us, and again, this isn't for everybody, but for us to stay in the same spot after a while, I think partly because we've done so much traveling, would probably get a little bit bored with that. So we'd like to split our home into sort of 3 different places.
That's cool.
Yeah, that sounds great. My wife and I, a few weeks back, were in San Diego, and I think literally the second day we were there, she went out for a run and came back and was like, I want to live here someday.
Yeah.
And, being a little bit more of the planner, and especially in terms of finances, I was like, well, one day we can probably live there for a few months, and then we'll have our home base, and then we can go somewhere else. And she was saying, yeah, but, then we got to sort of set everything up and, meet new people. And I'm like, well, the first time you're there, but then you travel back around the next year. So, honey, if you're listening to this, it's possible, and we can do it. Just a few more years of saving or planning.
And make sure you have a second bedroom.
Yeah, because Bill's coming too. Well, Andrew, we always ask for some advice, and you speak to educators every single day, people from all over the world. But what would you say to somebody just starting out on their financial journey that could help them take that first step on the path to success?
Well, I think always think optimistically and make a goal. So regardless of what it is, if it's something you want to do physically, you want to run a marathon, you want to be financially independent, is kind of visualize it and write it down. So actually put it down on paper somewhere so you can actually see it, and then tell a few close friends what you want to do. Because if you want to achieve something and no one knows it, so you want to run the Boston Marathon one day and it's cold and it's 5 a.m. and you got to do your long run before work or whatever it is. If you haven't told anybody, odds are pretty high that you might not get out of bed.
So true.
Yep.
Andrew, for maybe an older listener, somebody maybe in their 40s, 50s, maybe even, like somebody in 60 years old, let's say. And I say older because, what would you say to them if maybe they haven't taken those first steps properly, or they felt like life got in the way, but they're listening to this today and they want to start today to the path to financial success? What would you say to somebody who's in that, age range?
I'd say you're never going to be younger than you are right now. And so that I think is key, is recognizing that, it is never too late. So I look at examples of people that they might have a little bit of money in investments, and the investments aren't very efficient. They're high cost mutual funds. And of course, the greater statistical odds of success are with low cost index funds. And so a lot of people will say to me, well, okay, I'm 60 years old. I retire in 5 years. Is it really worth me selling my high cost mutual funds and put them into low cost index funds? And I say absolutely, because what you have is, it's not necessarily how long you're working that counts, but it's how long you're living. Your money when you retire isn't something that you blow on the day you retire completely and have like a massive party, rent a catamaran and just, drink it all away.
Right.
It's one of those things where you need to live on that sort of for the rest of your life. So you need to have that money working for you. So a 60-year-old could theoretically have money in the markets for another 25 years or plus. And so they'll need to be selling some of that, obviously, to cover the cost of living. But it really makes sense when it comes down to investing efficiently, number one. Number two, as well, when I do say you're never going to be younger than you are right now, or is to make sure that you do save the money that you have. Track your expenses. Once people start tracking their expenses, I don't necessarily say people have to budget, because budgets are boring. Budgets are like diets. But if you just track what you spend, studies show that you end up spending less, which allows you to invest more. And now we get to what I think is the kicker. It's that I would say ignore everything you've ever read about how much money you need to retire, how much money you'll be spending upon retirement, or what size of investment portfolio you need, because most of what you read is complete bunk. It's looking at it with a really fixed mindset instead of a growth mindset. And what a growth mindset would say is, you know what? Where could this money go furthest? And so I'll give you a really great example. When my wife and I ended up quitting our jobs, we spent a few months down in a fabulous place called Lake Chapala, Mexico. And it's just south of Guadalajara, about 45-minute drive south. The weather is perfect. Elevation is about 5,000 feet above sea level. So it's just this fabulous sort of 72-degree temperature all year round. And we met people down there, Americans. There are a lot of Americans that moved down into that area. People that that do so because the cost of living is lower, or people that just do it because they love the Mexican cultures. It's a really safe area of Mexico. And we met people living on $1,600 a month there, and not because they had to. Like some of these people, they had money, but that's all life was really costing them. They were living in a townhouse with a swimming pool. They had a gardener. They had a maid that came and cleaned the place a couple of times a week. They were going out for dinner 3 or 4 times a week. And it's cheap. And so there's a really great book that I suggest that everybody sort of have a look at, especially if they're wondering whether they're going to have enough money for retirement. It's written by a couple of writers that write for International Living magazine, and it's called International Living's Guide to Retiring Overseas on a Budget. And to me, it's exciting because it goes through and talks about different locations like Panama. What does it cost to live in Panama? What are the medical costs there? What's it actually like for expatriates? And I find this kind of thing really inspiring. And even if you don't want to, pull your roots up and move to Mexico and stay there the rest of your life, the idea that you could live in one of these low-cost locations for 6 months a year. Typically, I recommend the winter.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And just dramatically cut your costs and spend far less than the typical retiree, and I think live better.
I think that's great advice, and for anybody who is interested in taking that first step too, I'll personally recommend your book, Millionaire Teacher. I didn't even understand what index funds were, or where to put my 401k or 403b, or what's the difference between those two and a Roth IRA. And I think your book does a really good job of laying those things out and explaining them in a way where people can understand how they need to start living in order to be living later.
Oh, thank you. I had fun writing it. I had fun writing that book.
Just want to recap for everybody. So we went from spraying down buses to teaching to playing polo. So there you go.
I guess that's
in Dubai.
That's what is it? The summary, the quick version. Yeah, the cliff notes.
Well, I guess the point is there was none of this in self-made is exactly what it is, and there was none of this in his family. There was no schooling involved with this. It was. I learned how to do it from somebody who gave me a tip and figured it out on my own. And that's really cool.
Yeah, awesome story. All right, Andrew, thank you so much for the interview. And where can people find you online one more time? Social media, your books, website, just a little reminder for them.
AndrewHallam.com and Facebook, Millionaire Teacher. So... Of course, my book, Millionaire Teacher, came out, the second edition came out 3 months ago, and it's available on Amazon and in most bookstores.
The finer bookstores.
The finer bookstores.
As I think you said earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, available at all better bookstores.
Yeah, none of those fly-by-night bookstores.
So you crappy bookstores, if you're listening, all you got to do.
Hey, I've seen it in crappy bookstores too.
Andrew, I think Bill said it well. We went from, just growing up all the way to connecting with you today, and I think people are going to love hearing the story and the transition, and it's going to be a little inspirational, Bill. I think
it is, as promised.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing your stories, Andrew.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me onto the show.
All right, Bill. Hey, Andrew Hallam.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I loved hearing all of his stories, especially like the beginning ones a little bit about the Dubai polo matches with the Saudi princesses.
Yeah, I got to start saving money.
Yeah. Well, you got to read his books. But I kind of inspirational too, hearing about his cancer survivor story and his approach on life and his perspective too.
No, it is kind of cool, and I try to live my life a little bit like that. Like you got to live for the day, but he didn't do that for a long time. He was living for the future for such a long time. So the philosophy change once he got to a certain point is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna start riding our bikes 30 miles each way or whatever it was, but we should try something.
I'm gonna get on a horse, see if I can knock around a polo ball.
Yeah, seriously.
So if you don't have a horse to ride, you can always go with Lyft, the ride-sharing app that will pick you up and give you a ride when you need one. Remember, you can use our promo code GTS. So if you don't have it, download it. Use promo code GTS. Guys Telling Stories.
Awesome. Yeah. And also a quick reminder that you can help us and support this show for free simply by going to our website and using our Amazon link. That's guystellingstories.com. Click our Amazon link to support the show and help us out for free whenever you're online shopping.
You're shopping anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It helps us so much, and we really appreciate it. All right. Well, guys, this has been another great episode of Guys Telling Stories. Please, if you like what you hear, subscribe to the show. Tell a friend. Subscribe them, too. Just grab their phone.
Sure.
And share this episode with them.
Don't look at the pics.
All right. As always, I'm Rich Douglas.
I'm Bill Easton.
Until next time.